Hey, this is Erica from Ever Educating, and this channel is teaching tips, tools, ideas, and resources for new college instructors. In this month of August, I'm posting a video every week in prep for the fall term beginning. And so today I want to talk a bit about different ways that you can lead the discussions in your course. So I have some relevant videos below, older videos that have approaches to this, but this is a different perspective on who exactly is leading your discussions, right? So there's 4 options for you to try out. So the first one is for you as the instructor to lead the discussions, right? So that's the most obvious one, where you come in and maybe you have a list of questions prepared for your students to answer as you lead them through a discussion of your text or of the concepts they're learning that week, of how to problem solve, whatever it is that you are teaching in your course, okay? So this is the most evident one where you're leading. But there are other options. So the second approach is to have the students lead your discussions instead. For example, I have a group project that I had my students do in groups of 3. They worked together and they facilitated a 20 to 30 minute discussion for their class. So it's up to them to decide, okay, which of the novels are you going to be leading the discussion on? What's your focus going to be? And just design, right, an activity to have in the class that's 20 to 30 minutes long. And so in that case, depending on how many students you have and how long your term is, in my case, I had 30 students, right? So 3 each, that means there was 10 groups. So basically over half of my course, students were leading the first half or the second half of discussion, depending on their preference. Because my courses were 75 minutes per session. So they led, the first 30 minutes or so, or maybe the latter 30 minutes, and then I was in between their time. Sometimes it went over because they were really invested, and I'm like, hey, you can stop, or do you want to keep going? And a lot of times they said, oh no, let's keep going. I like having this power. So you can definitely rely on them to lead discussion as well. Now the third option is to have the discussion be text-led. So in this case, if you have a required textbook, or again, required novels, we're not teaching literature, then you could have that text be the leader, right? So it's not so much of you having, okay, let's discuss characterization in this novel. It's here's a scene, here's an excerpt, here's part of the textbook. We're going to read that, we're going to analyze that, we're going to make sure we understand that, we're going to interpret that, right? We're going to connect that to real world situations. So rather than it being you or your students, it's more, hey, you found excerpts from the text, and the whole discussion is that's the starting point. And then we're going to go ahead and interpret and analyze what's going on in this text. Or maybe more creative, and we're going to do the jump off point. Here's our starting point. We're going to imagine a different ending for this part of the story, right? Or what if here's our excerpt? What if this line changed? Now let's kind of talk about how that could change the rest of the plot, okay? So being text-led is a third option for you to try out, just to create a little bit of difference, in your course lessons, so it's not the same every single time. And the fourth one is expert-led. So of course you might be an expert here, but we're talking about maybe a guest expert-led. So in this case, it's not a required textbook or anything like that. It's you find a podcast episode, or you have a colleague come in to speak, or you find a video where there's an expert on your field in a particular week's concept or novel, and they're going to go ahead and have a little lecture. And then you use that as a jump off point instead of what you bring to the table or what your students bring to the table, right? So you have, hey, we've been studying this concept, we've been studying this culture, we've been studying this book, and look, this expert has this to say about it. What are our thoughts on that? Do we agree? Do we disagree? Like, how can we push that forward? What are some things they didn't consider in their speech, in their podcast, in their whatever the case may be? So I think bringing in outsiders into the classroom can help your students see, hey, there's connections to other people in the world. It's not just us who's studying this. It's not just us who are trying to interpret. So you can have that aspect of like, hey, here's somebody else and what they have to say about what you're studying. It's not just always your teacher and you. So again, just like 4 different ways of kind of seeing how to facilitate a discussion. I think having different approaches is really helpful to keep things lively in your course. And again, I'll link below a video of like how to plug and play when you're lesson planning. So you have different activities and then you just kind of alternate them to again keep things lively, as well as some videos on just different ways of leading a discussion in case you want to be a leader more often. There can be different formats for that as well. So again, I hope you found this video helpful. Click like if you do, subscribe to not miss out on future content. But again, I have a lot of videos on here, so if you're new to teaching and you're feeling a bit wary, go ahead and take a look at the rest of my channel. I'll see you next time with a new video.